Every time travel paradox explained. The grandfather paradox. The grandfather paradox occurs when a time traveler goes back in time and prevents their own grandparent from meeting their other grandparent, thus preventing the time traveler's parent from being born. This in turn would prevent the time traveler from being born, making their time travel impossible. It's a classic example of how changing the past could create logical inconsistencies in the timeline. The Bootstrap paradox. The Bootstrap paradox, also known as an ontological paradox, happens when an object, information, or event exists without a clear point of origin. For example, imagine a time traveler brings a book from the future to the past, and that book becomes the inspiration for the original author to write it. The question arises, who originally wrote the book? The paradox creates a circular loop of causality with no clear beginning. Predestination paradox. The predestination paradox occurs when a time traveler's attempt to change the past actually causes the event they were trying to prevent. In this scenario, the time traveler's actions become part of the established timeline, creating a closed loop of cause and effect. For instance, a time traveler goes back in time to prevent a fire, but accidentally causes the fire in their attempt to stop it. Butterfly effect paradox. The butterfly effect paradox is based on the idea that small changes in the past can have significant and unpredictable consequences in the future. In this paradox, a time traveler makes a seemingly insignificant change in the past, like stepping on a butterfly, which leads to drastic alterations in the present or future timeline. This paradox highlights the potential for unintended consequences in time travel. Novikov's self-consistency principle. The Novikov self-consistency principle suggests that any actions taken by a time traveler were always part of history, thus preventing paradoxes. According to this principle, it's impossible for time travelers to change the past in a way that would create a paradox. Instead, their actions would always be consistent with the established timeline, ensuring logical coherence. Meeting yourself paradox. The meeting yourself paradox occurs when a time traveler encounters a past or future version of themselves. This situation raises questions about free will and determinism. If the time traveler knows their future self's actions, are they bound to repeat them? Can they choose to act differently? This paradox explores the nature of personal identity and causality in time travel scenarios. Bilker's paradox. Bilker's paradox occurs when a time traveler attempts to bilk or prevent a known future event from happening. The paradox arises from the logical impossibility of both knowing the future with certainty and having the ability to change it. If the future can be changed, then it wasn't known with certainty. If it's known with certainty, it can't be changed. Polchinski's paradox. Named after physicist Joseph Polchinski, this paradox involves a billiard ball entering a wormhole, emerging in the past, and colliding with its younger self, preventing it from entering the wormhole in the first place. This creates a logical inconsistency where the ball both does and does not enter the wormhole. The paradox challenges our understanding of cause and effect in time travel scenarios. Twin paradox. While not strictly a time travel paradox, the twin paradox is related to the effects of time dilation in special relativity. It describes a scenario where one twin travels at near light speed and returns to find their earthbound sibling has aged more. This paradox, which is actually a proved phenomenon, demonstrates how time can pass differently for objects moving at different speeds. Fermi paradox in time travel. This paradox, inspired by the original Fermi paradox about alien life, questions why, if time travel to the past is possible in the future, we don't see time travelers in our present. It suggests either that time travel to the past is impossible, that future societies choose not to use it, or that time travelers are present but undetected. Multiple timelines paradox. This paradox arises from the idea that time travel might create alternate timelines or parallel universes. While this concept potentially solves many time travel paradoxes by allowing changes without affecting the original timeline, it raises new questions about the nature of reality and the consequences of creating multiple versions of history. Observer effect paradox. This paradox is based on the quantum mechanics principle that the act of observing a system inevitably changes it. In time travel, the mere presence of an observer from the future could alter the past, potentially changing the future they came from. This creates a paradox where the act of time travel itself changes the timeline. Temporal weapons paradox. This paradox involves the use of time travel for warfare. If it's possible to change the past, one could theoretically prevent an enemy nation from ever existing. However, this could lead to a never-ending cycle of temporal alterations as each side tries to outmaneuver the other through time, potentially destabilizing the entire timeline. Future knowledge, paradox. This paradox arises when a time traveler brings advanced knowledge or technology from the future to the past. If this knowledge significantly alters the course of technological development, it could prevent the future that produced that knowledge from ever occurring, creating a paradox. Temporal communication. Paradox. This paradox involves sending messages through time. If it's possible to send information to the past, one could theoretically send messages to prevent disasters or make different choices. However, if these messages are consistently acted upon, it could lead to a future where there's no reason to send the messages in the first place, creating a paradox. Time travel invention. Paradox. This paradox occurs when the invention of time travel itself is dependent on future time travelers. For example, if the key to creating a time machine is brought back from the future, it creates a loop where the invention has no clear point of origin. This paradox questions the nature of technological progress and causality. Temporal illness. Paradox. This paradox considers the biological implications of time travel. If a time traveler brings back a disease from the future that humanity hasn't developed immunity to yet, it could cause a pandemic in the past. This pandemic might then change the future in ways that prevent the disease from developing in the first place, creating a paradox. Temporal inheritance. Paradox. This paradox occurs when a time traveler inherits something from themselves. For example, a traveler might receive a watch from their future self, wear it for years, and then travel back in time to give it to their past self. This creates a loop where the watch has no point of origin and doesn't age, defying the laws of thermodynamics. Schrodinger's time traveler. Paradox. Inspired by the famous Schrodinger's cat thought experiment, this paradox considers a scenario where a time traveler's actions in the past may or may not have altered the present. Until the time traveler returns to their original time, the present exists in a superposition of states, both changed and unchanged. This paradox explores the intersection of quantum mechanics and time travel. Your temporal lottery. Paradox. This paradox occurs when a time traveler uses knowledge of future events for personal gain, such as winning a lottery. If many time travelers did this, it could significantly alter economic systems and the nature of probability itself. This paradox explores the potential consequences of using time travel for personal benefit. Temporal afterlife. Paradox. This paradox explores the philosophical implications of time travel on concepts of the afterlife. If a person dies in one time period but continues to exist in others due to time travel, questions arise about the nature of death and the soul in a universe where time is not linear. Temporal democracy paradox. This paradox considers the impact of time travel on democratic processes. If time travelers could vote multiple times in the same election by visiting the same day repeatedly, it could undermine the principles of democracy and raise questions about fair representation in a world with time travel. Temporal artistic influence paradox. This paradox occurs when a time traveler introduces artistic styles or works from the future to the past. If these introductions significantly influence the development of art, it could prevent the future artistic movements that inspired them from ever occurring, creating a loop of artistic influence with no clear origins. Temporal species evolution. Paradox. This paradox considers the impact of time travel on the evolution of species. If time travelers consistently interfere with or alter the environment of the past, it could significantly change the evolutionary pressures on species, potentially preventing the evolution of the time travelers themselves.